The hardest kind of love is the one you carry quietly, hoping one day it will be returned. I was 20 when I met him. His name was Ariv. We were in the same college, sitting in the same class, and on the first day, he sat next to me because it was the only empty seat. He looked at me and smiled. I smiled back, just out of politeness. I didn't think anything would come of it. I didn't expect him to become such a big part of my life. But he did. We didn't talk much at first. Just small things, notes in class, questions about assignments, small jokes when the teacher wasn't looking. But slowly, day by day, our conversations grew. We talked during breaks. We walked together after class. He once waited for me outside the library because he said he didn't want to walk alone. That became a habit. We started walking together every day after our last class. I began to wait for him without saying it. And he always showed up. I didn't fall in love with him suddenly. It happened slowly, over time. There was no big moment. Just many small ones. The way he said my name, the way he asked if I had eaten, the way he remembered things I said weeks ago. One day I realized I looked for him in every room. I noticed how he laughed with others, how he listened when someone spoke, how he always stayed calm even when things went wrong. He was kind to everyone, but when he spoke to me, it felt different. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I just wanted it to be. But I started hoping, just a little. Hoping that maybe he saw me the way I saw him. I never told him how I felt. I thought about it many times. I even practiced it in front of the mirror. I like you. I think about you a lot. You're special to me. But every time I saw him, I got scared. What if he didn't feel the same? What if it changed everything? I didn't want to lose what we had, even if it was just friendship. So I said nothing. He would tell me about the girls who liked him. He would ask me if he looked okay before a party. Once, he even showed me a message a girl sent him, asking if she was being too forward. I laughed and gave my opinion. But deep inside, I felt something heavy. I wanted to be that girl. I wanted him to ask me how I felt. But he never did. He once dated someone for 3 months. Her name was Priya. She was pretty, smart, confident. I remember the day he told me about her. I smiled and said, "That's nice." That night, I cried into my pillow and told myself to get over him. I thought maybe I could stop feeling what I felt. But I couldn't. Even when he talked about Priya, I listened. I gave advice. I helped him find a gift for her birthday. It hurt, but I stayed close. After they broke up, he told me she wasn't right for him. He said she didn't understand him. I nodded, even though I wanted to say, "I do." But again, I stayed silent. We finished college and started working. Different companies, different schedules, but we still talked almost every day. Sometimes just short messages. Sometimes long calls. He once called me at 2 a.m. because he couldn't sleep. We talked for an hour, mostly about nothing. After the call, I sat in the dark, holding my phone, smiling and sad at the same time. People asked me why I didn't date. My parents, my friends, even some colleagues. I always said I was busy or that I hadn't met the right person. I never said I was already in love with someone who didn't know. Or maybe he knew and just didn't feel the same. I didn't want to know which was worse. There were moments I thought he might feel something too. Like the time he remembered my favorite snack and brought it to work just because. Or when he said, "I don't think I could ever lose you, you're my person." That sentence stayed with me for days. I repeated it in my head, wondering what it meant. Was it just friendship? Or something more? I wanted to ask. I wanted to say, "What do you mean by your person?" But I didn't. I was scared that he would say, "Just a friend." And I didn't want to hear those words. So again, I stayed quiet. Years passed. I watched him grow, change, try new things. He started his own small business. He traveled. He posted pictures with friends, with his dog, with his family. I liked every picture. I commented on some. He always replied. Sometimes with just a smiley face, sometimes with a long message. I read every word like it was special. Once, we went to a friend's wedding together. We weren't a couple, but people assumed we were. Someone even asked how long we had been dating. He laughed and said, "Oh no, we're just best friends." I smiled and nodded. But inside, something broke a little. I knew that's all I was to him. But hearing it said out loud, it hurt in a different way. That night, when I got home, I looked at myself in the mirror and asked, "Why are you still holding on?" I didn't have an answer. I just knew that I loved him. And I didn't know how to stop. Some days, I told myself I was fine. That I could live like this. That I didn't need anything more. But on other days, I felt tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of hiding. Tired of being the quiet one who always stayed in the background. He once called me his safe space. He said, "You're the one person I can always come back to." I smiled, but I also felt a deep sadness. Because I didn't want to be a place he came back to. I wanted to be the place he stayed. I started writing letters to him. Not to send. Just to write. Pages and pages, late at night, telling him everything I never said out loud. I wrote about our memories. About my feelings. About how I wished things were different. I kept those letters in a small box under my bed. It made me feel better. Like my love had somewhere to live, even if it wasn't in his heart. I told myself I would move on. I even tried dating someone. He was nice. Funny. Kind. But he wasn't Arif. And that wasn't fair to him. So I ended it before it began. I wasn't proud of this version of myself. The one who waited. The one who stayed silent. But I also knew that I wasn't weak. I loved deeply. Honestly. And even if it was one-sided, it was real. Arv once told me, "You're one of the strongest people I know." I wanted to say, "You have no idea how strong I have to be just to sit beside you and act like I don't love you." But I just smiled and said thank you. I thought I could keep doing this, living with my feelings in a quiet corner of my heart, never disturbing anyone, never asking for more, just being there like I always had. But something was about to change, and this time, silence wouldn't be enough. I thought I could keep doing this, living with my feelings in a quiet corner of my heart, never disturbing anyone, never asking for more, just being there like I always had. But something was about to change, and this time, silence wouldn't be enough. It happened on a Tuesday. A simple message on my phone. "Can we meet tomorrow evening? I want to talk about something important." I read it again, then again. The words weren't dramatic. They weren't romantic. But something in them felt different. He didn't usually say things like important. We met often, but we never planned it like that. This felt intentional. I didn't know what to expect, but I couldn't stop my mind from running in circles. Was he moving away? Was something wrong? Or could it be something else? Something I had been hoping for years? I spent the whole night thinking. I couldn't sleep. I kept going through everything we had ever said to each other. Every moment. Every memory. I started to believe, just a little, that maybe this was it. Maybe this was the moment everything changed. The next evening, we met at our usual cafe, the one near the park. It was quiet, familiar. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at our usual corner table. He smiled when he saw me, the same warm smile I had loved for 10 years. "Hey," he said, standing up to give me a quick hug. "Hey," I replied, trying to sound calm. We ordered tea. He asked about work. I answered. I asked about his new client. He told me. Everything felt normal. Too normal. I kept waiting for him to bring it up. The important thing. But he didn't. Not for the first 20 minutes. Then suddenly, he looked at me with a different kind of seriousness. Not sad. Not nervous. Just thoughtful. "I wanted to talk to you about something," he said. I nodded, my hands quietly holding the edge of the table. "I've been seeing someone," he continued. "It's new, but it feels serious." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just kept looking at him, trying to keep my face neutral. "She's different," he said. "In a good way. I didn't expect it, but I really like her." I managed a small smile. "That's nice. I'm happy for you." He looked relieved. "Thanks. I wanted to tell you myself. You're the first person I told." I nodded again. I said all the right things. "She's lucky." You deserve to be happy. I hope it works out. He smiled. I smiled back. But something inside me felt like it was breaking apart in slow motion. We didn't stay long after that. He had to go. She was waiting for him. He walked me to my bus stop like he always did. And when we said goodbye, he gave me another hug. You're still my person, he said. I nodded. I didn't know what to say anymore. When I got home, I sat on my bed and didn't move for a long time. The silence in the room felt louder than ever. I didn't cry, not at first. It was like my body didn't know how. But my chest felt tight, like I couldn't take a full breath. Later that night, I opened the box under my bed. The one with all the letters I wrote but never sent. I took them out, one by one, and read them. Some were 5 years old. Some were written just last week. All of them full of words he never heard. Feelings he never knew. I wanted to burn them. Or throw them away. Or delete him from my life. But I didn't do any of that. I just kept them back in the box. And closed it. The next few days were hard. I didn't message him. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did, but he didn't ask. I saw his updates online, photos with her, smiling, happy. And I tried to be okay. I told myself it was time to move on. That I had held on long enough. That I needed to start over. But starting over isn't simple when your heart has only known one person for 10 years. There were no instructions. No map. Just a heavy feeling that followed me everywhere. I tried to keep busy. I said yes to more work. I started going to the gym. I met old friends I hadn't seen in years. I even went on a date just to see if I could feel something else. The guy was kind. He asked questions. He listened. But I couldn't stop thinking about Arif. After the date, I cried. Not because it was bad, but because it reminded me of what I had always wanted and never had. A few weeks later, Arif messaged me. It's been a while. Are you okay? I stared at the message. I didn't know how to reply. I didn't want to lie. But I also didn't want to sound like I was hurting. I typed, yeah, just been a little busy. Hope you're doing well. He replied almost immediately. I miss our chats. I didn't respond. That evening, he called me. I didn't pick up. A few hours later, he sent a voice note. Hey, I'm not sure what's wrong, but I hope you're okay. I know I've been talking a lot about her lately, maybe too much. I just didn't want to hide things from you. You've always been the person I trust the most. But if you need space, I understand. I listened to the note 3 times. His voice was soft. He sounded worried. But not because he knew how I felt. Just because he cared in the way a friend cares. That was the problem. He cared. But he didn't love me. Not the way I loved him. That night, I finally allowed myself to say it out loud. I love you, Arif. And you don't love me back. The room didn't react. Nothing changed. But I felt like something inside me had finally been said. And that meant something. For the first time in years, I accepted the truth. I had been loving someone who was never mine. I wasn't angry at him. He never promised me anything. He never led me on. He was always honest. Always kind. He just didn't feel what I felt. And that wasn't his fault. But it still hurt. And now I had to decide, keep loving him from a distance or let go completely. Neither option felt easy. But one of them was necessary. Because I couldn't keep living in the space between hope and silence. Letting go of someone you never had isn't like breaking up. There's no fight. No goodbye. No reason to hate them. You just wake up one day and realize you're tired of waiting. I didn't decide everything in one moment. It was slow, like everything with him had been. But this time, it wasn't slow in a sweet way. It was slow in a painful, quiet way. I stopped replying to his messages quickly. I didn't pick up every call. I tried not to check his updates. Sometimes I failed. But every time I looked, I felt that same ache in my chest. Like I was standing outside a house I could never enter. One evening, he sent me a photo of a sunset. Thought of you, he wrote. I stared at it for a long time. It was beautiful. Just like the hundreds of other small things he had sent me over the years. And in that moment, I realized something that hurt even more than everything before. He had always loved me. Just not the way I needed. He loved me like family. Like something permanent in his life. A place of comfort. A quiet space. Someone who was always there. He loved me the way people love old songs or childhood homes. Safe. Familiar. Easy. But not romantic. Not in the way that makes someone choose you over everyone else. I wanted to be chosen. I wanted to be looked at the way I looked at him. So I stopped replying that day. The next day he called. I didn't answer. After that, he sent a message. Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? I stared at the message for hours. I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to someone that they've been breaking your heart for years without even knowing it? I opened my notes app. I wrote the message there first. Then deleted it. Wrote again. Edited. Deleted. Finally, I replied. You didn't do anything wrong. But I think I need some time for myself. I've been feeling a bit lost, and I just need some space to figure things out. Hope you understand. He replied within seconds. Of course. I'm here if you ever want to talk. That was it. Short. Polite. Kind. Just like always. But behind that message, I felt the distance beginning. A distance I had been afraid of for years. And now, I was the one creating it. Days passed. Then weeks. We didn't talk. I tried to fill my time with other things. I went for morning walks. I signed up for a weekend painting class. I cooked more often. I watched movies I had always planned to watch but never did. It felt strange at first, like I was living someone else's life. But little by little, the quiet started to feel less heavy. I still thought of him. Of course I did. He had been a part of me for so long. But the thoughts didn't hurt the same way anymore. One night, while folding laundry, I found an old scarf he had given me years ago. He had picked it up on a trip and said, "It looked like something you'd wear." I held it in my hands and smiled. Not the sad kind of smile. Just a soft one. Memories started coming back. But this time, they weren't sharp. They didn't cut. They felt like soft waves. Like echoes of something that was beautiful, even if it never became what I hoped. I realized I didn't need to erase him from my life. I just needed to let go of the version of him I had created in my head. The version that would one day wake up and love me back. He wasn't that person. And that was okay. Around that time, I got a new job opportunity. It was in a different city. Not very far, but far enough that it meant change. New home, new people, new routine. I took it. I didn't think too much. I just said yes. On my last day in the city, I went for a walk in the park near our old cafe. The same place where he had once told me about his new relationship. I sat on our usual bench and watched the people walk by. The sky was changing colors slowly, and the air felt cool. I didn't cry. I didn't feel broken. I just felt ready. I reached into my bag and took out one of the letters I had written to him. I had picked it randomly from the box. I opened it and read the words again. "I wish you could see what I see when I look at you." I folded it and left it on the bench. Not for him. Not for anyone, really. Just for me. A way to leave behind something that had lived inside me for too long. The next morning, I moved. The new city was quieter. I didn't know anyone there. For the first few days, I just focused on work and unpacking. I didn't feel like meeting new people. I didn't feel like explaining who I was or what I had been through. But slowly, things started to settle. I found a coffee shop I liked. The girl at the bakery near my office started remembering my name. I joined a book club. I walked more. And most importantly, I started thinking about myself again. Not just about who I was in his life, but who I wanted to be in mine. For so long, I had shaped my life around him. Around his calls, his messages, his plans. Now, I was learning to build something for myself. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. One evening, after a long day at work, I got a message. It was from Arif. "Hey. Just wanted to check in. Haven't heard from you in a while. Hope the new job is going well." I stared at it for a long time. And then, I smiled. not because I was hoping for anything, but because I knew what I wanted to say. I typed, "Hey, it's going well, thanks. Hope you're doing okay too. Life's been different, but I'm learning to like it." He replied a while later, "That's good to hear. You deserve all the good things. Always here if you want to talk." I read it, then locked my phone. And that was it. No more hoping. No more waiting. Just peace. The next few months passed slowly, but they felt different. I no longer felt like I was waiting for a message or watching his life from a distance. Instead, I was watching my own life open up again. It wasn't dramatic. There were no big changes overnight. Just small things. Like the way I started waking up earlier, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I made tea for myself and sat on my balcony. Sometimes I wrote in my journal. Sometimes I didn't. But that quiet time in the morning became mine. For years, my mornings used to begin by checking my phone to see if Arav had messaged. If he hadn't, I would feel a strange emptiness for the rest of the day. But now, I didn't start the day with his name in my mind. And that was new. I was learning how to build a routine without him in it. It was peaceful and also a little strange. Like I was meeting myself again after a long time. One Sunday, I went to the market near my new apartment. There was a small flower shop there. Bright yellow sunflowers stood in a bucket near the entrance. I stopped and stared at them for a moment. Arav once told me sunflowers were his favorite. I picked one up, smiled, and put it back. I didn't need to carry that memory with me anymore. It had already lived its time. At work, people started noticing I was different. One colleague said I seemed lighter. Another said I smiled more now. I didn't explain anything. I just nodded. Sometimes change doesn't need a story. Sometimes it's just quiet healing. One evening, I got home late and found a missed call from Arav. I didn't return it. He didn't send a message either. A few days later, he sent a voice note. "Hey, just thinking of you today. Hope things are good your side. I know we haven't talked much lately. Maybe that's how life works sometimes. But I hope you're okay." I listened to the voice twice. He still sounded the same. Calm. Familiar. Gentle. But this time, I didn't feel that sharp ache I used to. I didn't feel the need to cry, or reply, or hope for more. I just sat with it for a few moments and then went to wash the dishes. That's the thing about letting go. At first, it feels like you're losing everything. But slowly, it begins to feel like you're making space. For air. For peace. For new things. I was no longer checking his photos or watching his life from behind a screen. I didn't feel invisible anymore. Because I had stopped choosing to be invisible. I began seeing myself in a different way. I was no longer just someone who waited, who listened, who stayed silent in love. I was someone who felt deeply, who stood by someone for years, and who had the strength to walk away when it started hurting too much. That realization gave me a quiet kind of power. One weekend, I went on a short trip with a few people from my book club. We stayed in a cottage near a lake. On the second evening, as the sun was setting, we all sat around a fire. Someone passed around a notebook and asked everyone to write a one-line wish. Something they wanted to let go of. When the notebook came to me, I stared at the page for a while. Then I wrote, I wish to let go of the love I held in silence. I didn't say his name. I didn't need to. That one sentence carried years of quiet heartbreak, patience, hope, and healing. It was enough. That night, I slept without dreams. Back home, I finally decided to clear out the box under my bed. The one filled with unsent letters I had written to Arv over the years. I took them out one by one. Some were messy, written in rushed handwriting. Some were neat, almost like printed pages. Some were only a few lines. Some were pages long. As I read them, I didn't feel shame or regret. I felt proud of the girl who wrote them. The girl who loved with her whole heart, even when she wasn't loved the same way. She was strong. She was kind. And she deserved peace. So I folded the letters, tied them together with a string, and took them to the park near my place. It was quiet there, with a small pond and a few benches. I sat under a tree, said a soft goodbye in my heart, and let the letters go into the bin nearby. I didn't look back. That moment wasn't about forgetting him. It was about honoring the love I had carried. And then choosing to carry something else. Myself. Weeks later, I was sitting at a cafe reading a book when a stranger asked if he could share my table. The place was crowded, and I nodded. He smiled, thanked me, and we started talking. His name was Rishi. He was easy to talk to. He didn't ask too many questions, but he listened well. He wasn't trying to impress me. He was just being himself. When I got home that evening, I realized I had smiled the entire time. Not because I was falling for someone new. Not yet. But because I had shared a moment, a simple, kind moment, without carrying the weight of someone else in my mind. A week later, he asked if I wanted to get coffee again. I said yes. I didn't compare him to Arif. I didn't expect anything. I was just open. Open to life. Open to healing. Open to love if and when it came. That was the biggest change. For 10 years, my heart had been full of one person. Every corner. Every space. Every thought. Now, there was room for new people, new stories, new hopes. I would always remember Arif. He was a part of my story. A quiet, long, beautiful chapter. But he wasn't the whole book. And I was still writing. Sometimes, love is not about holding on. Sometimes it's about learning when to let go, even if your heart whispers that it's not ready. Because healing doesn't come all at once. It comes in small choices, in silent strength, in letting your story move forward. I didn't love him any less. I just stopped waiting for him to love me back. And that, I realized, was also love. Love for him. And finally, love for myself.